Eddie, 4 provinces through to the knockout stages is very impressive.
Yeah, we've always seemed to have a good footprint in the domestic competition. If you look at Scotland, for a while it was Edinburgh, then Glasgow took up the mantle. Wales, they trade between Ospreys one year, and Scarlets have been the team for a while and have dropped away again this year. So what Ireland have always had a good footprint. We've always had a big ambition in this tournament. And now with Connacht really pitching up this year, it really means that we're all in with the fight here. So I think it's the thing worries me sometimes is that if we dominate this tournament too much, the interest might go for other countries. But as it stands, you can only play as well as you're allowed to play, and we're playing very well. And I think it's the depth in our squads, it's our academy systems, it's the central league and management of the players. It all feeds into us being strong across the board.
Yeah, Murray, what is it? Is it the depth of the squads?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I think an important part is the coaching as well. Like, the RFU have figured that out. Andy Friend in Connacht has changed it there. He's transformed the mood around the province, how they play as well. Dan McFarland up in Ulster was a really good addition as well. They had to get him out of Scotland and pay a bit of money, but it's worth it because an important leader like that, a guy who figurehead for everything, is just massive. Munster, Johan McGran is getting his stamp on it, and then obviously Stuart Lancaster has a huge effect. So yeah. I think the union deserve a bit of credit for getting really good coaches in there. Yeah,
Donncha, each squad is using over 40 to 50 players. I mean, it's very different to whenever you would have been here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just shows the competition for places throughout all the squads. But what has also been good is the competition, the whole Pro 14 has been really good. You look at Cardiff this year, that Connacht game, it came down to, a close decision with a TMO, but all the teams, they're really kind of vying to get into those knockouts berths, and I think it's been probably the best league we've had.
Yeah, our first Interpro today, Eddie, Leinster up against Ulster. I mean, Leinster looked like they were back to their best last weekend.
Yeah, I think the takeaway from last week from Leinster, we were all worried before the game that they hadn't kind of played together for a few weeks. They made lots of changes between the Ulster game, and they didn't play very well against Ulster. Ulster almost got them. Yeah. So there was this sense they were undercooked, and we're afraid that going into the game against Toulouse, if they were undercooked again, Toulouse are a team that could beat you. But credit where credit is due, they actually hit the ground running, and I just thought the calmness and they just went through the game methodically and won the game. And everything Toulouse threw at them, they managed it well, and they still kept their composure. And I think that was a sign of a team who are very comfortable where they are, very comfortable in their skin, know exactly what they're doing and where they're going. And the kind of the mark of the champions around them haven't done it before. Now there's a road to travel yet in Europe. Obviously, they've got the dream final against the other best team in Europe. But overall, you feel Leinster are a very, very well run, very efficient, very confident place at the moment, and there's no sign of that letting up.
Yeah, Murray, you thought actually Leinster, they can still get better as well from last weekend.
Yeah, I think there's more to come from them, particularly in that European final. I think Saracens will bring out the best in them, but for this particular team, I think there's a lot to come. They've lost 3 in a row in the Pro 14, their worst run since 2015, which is really remarkable. I think there'll be a real determination to finish out this regular season strongly against an Ulster team that looks a little bit weaker on paper. I think we saw what happened when they were down here earlier on in the season against Munster. This kind of B team from Ulster really got hammered. So there's a clear motivation there, but I feel like Leinster now, with those finals to come, will really push on a gear.
Well, we of course remember that game against Leinster and Ulster a couple of weeks ago, but Ulster have a very poor record in the provincial championship this year with only 1 win.
Yeah, that's been really disappointing. I think Dan McFarland will be pushing that as a big sense of the renewal of the pride up in Ulster. There's been a big effort to grow that again, to get them into maybe dominating the provincials eventually. That's going to take time. I think this is a project over multiple years, but they've made good progress. You saw them push Leinster close, and even to be in that quarter final was a big achievement this season. So this is another opportunity to take another step.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another huge match here in Thomond Park later on, Donncha. Huge game for Munster.
Yeah, big game for Connacht as well. I think they'd like to, like we were saying, use their whole squad, have competition for places going into the Ulster game. But, Munster probably needing a favour from Edinburgh. But I'll be honest, with last week's disappointment, better than anyone, you just want to get out on the pitch, and no better place to get around your home supporters and get out in Thomond.
Yeah, I mean, it was a disappointment, wasn't it? I mean, Saracens just look so strong.
Yeah, they did, to be fair to them. There can be no complaint. Saracens thoroughly deserved their win. I think, just the manner of it in terms of, especially in that second half, I think, I think Irish rugby needs someone to stand up to that type of rugby, and that'll be Leinster, hopefully, in the European Cup final, because I think teams will have tasted success, be it England with the first game of the Six Nations or Saracens last week, that if you bring up the physicality levels against the Irish teams, that we might fall away. So when it comes to that Leinster Saracens game, I think that's a big ask for
It's
them.
going to be a belter, absolutely. Okay, well, let's talk about the one team not in Ireland, but are playing for a playoff. Benetton are hopefully going to get third position. They've been really the standout team in almost worldwide rugby this year.
Yeah, it's the story of worldwide rugby. I think certainly in the club level, they've been so consistent. It would be an absolute shock if they don't get the job done today with a bonus point. They have all the elements. They have a really good squad. We talk about depth here. They're able to make changes when their Italian internationals are missing. That was the big question for them. Six Nations time, were they going to put results together? They did a phenomenal job in that period, and I'd be shocked if they don't get the job done today. They totally deserve it, and it'll be exciting for them to be in a playoff. You never know what happens when you're in that knockout mix. You never quite know. It could be a fairy tale yet.